Hello, everyone. It is a joy and a privilege to have you here today. This is the Hopenning, and we are blessed to be here with a very special guest today, Natalie Ledwell. But let us introduce ourselves first. So I am Fran. I am a rapid transformational therapist practitioner, and I'm also a teacher, so I took the summer off. And I have your children back and your grandchildren because I'm back at school. And my beautiful co-host Marina is also a rapid transformational therapy clinical therapist. So we're both registered and we both love our jobs. Marina is also a trained opera singer. So it's my joy to have her voice every day, every time we get together with the Hopenning. So welcome, Marina. And our very special guest today comes to us from
Los
LA.
Angeles, LA, yeah.
From Los Angeles, uh, via Australia.
Right.
And so Natalie Ledwell is our guest on Hopenning number 33. And welcome, Natalie. So, Marina, tell us a little bit about Natalie and why we are so privileged to have Natalie here today with us.
Thank you so much, Fran. And just the Hopenning, the place where hope is happening. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my personal story with Natalie. But first, I want to tell you about Natalie. Dame Natalie Ledwell is a best-selling author, host of a podcast, Not Over, Just Different, co-host of the cable TV show Wake Up, and founder of Mind Movies, the hugely successful and revolutionary online personal development company that has reached over 10 million people worldwide. I am one. Right now, she has launched her groundbreaking social and emotional learning curriculum entitled Personal Growth Studies into schools in the US, which is designed to empower youth from ages 5 to 18 years to live fulfilling and successful lives with high self-esteem and a vision for a bright future. In October 2018, Natalie traveled to Liberia, where she met with government officials and launched personal growth studies into a number of schools, which is now in its second year, working with over 1,000 students. In 2020, Natalie had the immense honor to be knighted by the Orthodox Order of St. John's, a humanitarian group recognizing individuals who are not only doing great work, but who have a big vision of the work they want to complete in the world, helping others. And she has also been awarded one of the top 50 women leaders of Los Angeles for 2022. So very, very welcome. So I kind of feel like I should go like this too, because I feel extremely blessed and privileged that you agreed to be here with us, Natalie, because you became a voice in my head for a few years. And I love to tell the story because in 2018, I just finished cancer treatment and life didn't look very pretty to me. When one day, it was just after my 50th birthday party, which I created just to keep myself busy and to not fall into depression, I realized that I cannot go on. And at that moment, I clicked on Facebook because I just couldn't have another day of Netflix. And there was an ad by Natalie Ledwell, and you had a questionnaire. And every single point there spoke to me so deeply in my heart and my soul that later that afternoon, I signed up for your program, the Ultimate Success Masterclass. And I finished that in the exact time frame that I was supposed to. I did everything. I started gratitude journals. Through that, I've never stopped. Now I have my own that I send to all my clients. When I started Ultimate Success Masterclass, I had no self-esteem. I was self-doubting myself on every level. And when I did the work, it was fairly soon into the program, I was challenged to face my deepest desire, my deepest dream for myself. And I didn't have the courage. I couldn't voice it. I couldn't even express it to myself, not to my husband, not to everybody. but I had to write it down and I had to work with it. And then I had to post it in the forum and I wanted to die. I had so many limiting beliefs about that. And then I had to create a mind movie. And I want to play a little bit of my original mind movie because I was just telling Fran and Natalie, it's 4.5 years later. And maybe one of those points on that mind movie is not my reality today. Everything else is. So here we go. If I can find it, I better share my screen first. Maybe I should put my glasses on and I can actually see what I'm doing. Surprised, is this a past life or am I hypnotized? In dark I hear a distant sound but can't quite make it out. Do mystics through the age resound or is it religious shouts? I search for my soul. Spirit. Okay, that goes on for about 4 minutes, so I'm going to cut it short there. So that is Mind Movies. Natalie, welcome. Please tell us your absolute amazing story.
Oh, okay. So the Mind Movie story is when I started to understand and I first discovered a thing called the law of attraction, what really changed my life. I had a moment last week. I was interviewed by Joe Vitale. So Joe is very well known because he has been in many movies and written many books. So he's been one of these guys that talks a lot about law of attraction, and he was in the movie The Secret. Now I saw The Secret back in 2006 when it first came out. And so I had this full circle moment last week where I was he was interviewing me for his show. And I was, talking about how, that movie and understanding that concept of law of attraction kind of changed the trajectory of my life. I was a student of personal development. I got my first set of cassettes when I was 21 from my boss, Brian Tracy. So my first career was fitness. So I worked for guys who would invest a lot of money in their teams. So they would pay for me to go to see Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn and, and all the big motivational speakers at those times. So I was, I knew how to set goals. I knew how to think positively. I knew how to make plans. I knew all of those kind of things. And I remember in 2006 having this moment where, my husband and Glenn and I at the time had 4 businesses. We were running at the same time. We're still struggling financially. And I'm like, I'm still missing something. And then when I watched that movie, it was like, how did I miss the law of attraction? That's a pretty important concept. And so once we started applying those principles with all the business, acumen that we had, that's when we had, outrageous success. A friend of ours came to us. I think The Secret had just been on Oprah. So everyone was talking about visualizing and, and seeing themselves in their future and creating vision boards. So people will cut out photos of a house or a car or a vacation and stick it up on this board, or a dream board, they used to call it. And so it made it easier for them to see themselves already driving that car or living in that house. So number one, it made it more believable that it was possible. And number two, we do know that for you to be able to create anything that you want in your life, it has to be a thought first. And if it's a repetitive thought that you have where you also are adding emotion to it, like feeling what it's like to already be there, then and as you're taking action, you're really becoming a vibrational match to the things that you need to make it happen. So our friend approached us with this little video that he'd put together, and it was like a slideshow. So it had affirmations that were on PowerPoint slides, and in between the PowerPoint slides were photos, and then he had music as well. So it was like his version of a vision board. And so he asked Glenn and I to go into business with him and set up a website. Because, we didn't need another business because we already had 4. And we knew nothing about the internet. Like Glenn could hardly turn on a computer. And this is 2007. And I hadn't heard of YouTube or like, when someone's trying to describe a social network to me, I'm like, wait a minute. So you put all your personal details and your personal photos on a website. I go, why would anyone do that? Like, that makes no sense to me. But that's where we started. And so from there, we put one little video on YouTube. Within months, we had so many emails from people coming in saying that, it was changing their life. And so I'm like, all right, boys, we need to get serious about this. How do we do this internet thing? So we ended up coming over to the US in 2008. April 2008, we attended a seminar, got accepted into an internet marketing mastermind group. So now we're on the fast track learning everything that we needed to learn. We stayed here. We were in San Diego. So we stayed there until September 2008, which is when we did our first big launch, which, also coincided with the economic crisis that hit the planet in 2008. Even though we had $120,000 on credit cards and everything that could go wrong went wrong during that launch and that campaign, we ended up doing like a $700,000, launch. And it's kind of what put us on the map. So we left after that, went back home to Australia, came back the next year. And that's when we're getting emails from people like Joe Vitale and Jack Canfield and Bob Proctor going, we'd love to work with you guys. We're like, okay. So then, that movie where I'm thinking these are all my mentors and these are all the people I really look up to, then became my peers. And a lot of them are my friends now. So, my life that I was being able to create from that one little moment back in 2006 far exceeds anything I could have ever possibly dreamed up for myself. So.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. And for me, on a much smaller scale, I went from the Ultimate Success Masterclass, of which we started a mastermind group, or what did you call it? The buddy system. I can't remember the word.
Oh, yeah, your accountability partner.
The accountability partner. Yeah. We started that, and there was a group that formed. I think I still have contact with everybody on there, and one of them became one of my best friends. I talk with her every single day, and it was fascinating to see how we grew beyond that, how we encourage each other to finish. But now looking back, it's that law of attraction thing. Looking at my mind movie, I created 4, and all of them are like, wow, that happened. And then I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. So I'm in Serbia with my husband. One of the things on this thing that I cut short was I'm traveling worldwide with my husband. I am. And so I'm in Serbia with my husband. I'm reading Becoming Supernatural. And there is Natalie Ledwell. I'm like, oh my gosh, it feels like a family member featured by Dr. Joe Dispenza. So it's just such a huge impact. But I really am so curious about the school programs as well, especially Fran. I'm pretty sure you will have loads of questions about that.
Mm-hmm. Before we get to the school programs, I think our viewers would like to know what happened to you in 2008 in regards to attracting money, because obviously the $700,000 was that was just such a windfall. But what happened before that? And, as a result of.
Yeah. Well, when we came to the US, we came with the intention of, finding a mentor, learning everything that we had to do, and launching this idea to the world. That was the intention to come over. So the first weekend that we arrived was this internet marketing seminar. Now, the reason we were at that seminar is because we purchased a program online by this guy who was running the seminar. And we're like, okay, we implemented one idea, made our money back. We're like, okay, this guy's a genius. How do we work with him? And it was so lucky that, he announced at that event that he was going to do a mastermind. It was the first one he'd ever done. You had to actually fill out a form to get accepted. Like you had to be vetted. And I was so excited, I'm writing out this compelling reason on this form. And I've got Glenn and my friend Ryan. They're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, this is why we're here. I can't believe I manifested this so quickly. Like, this is what we're supposed to be here for. And the thing is, the reason they were hesitant was because we really didn't have a lot of money. We had a lot of credit, which is why we had racked up so much, a big balance by the time we got to the launch. But I'm like, we'll figure it out. We'll get the money somehow, but we have to do this. And it was the smartest thing we ever did, because we aligned ourselves with people, not just who knew more than we did. And we were in that mastermind. So it was very structured at the way that we were learning. But even in a social situation, our friends were internet marketers too. So we were learning, all the time. We were just sponges. And we spent, 10-hour days in our bedrooms in this little apartment that we rented underneath the flight path of San Diego Airport. We didn't know at the time. And we would just be working away. And we did create a mind movie for that launch. We talked about the type of customers that we were attracting. We talked about the amount of money. And we actually set ourselves a goal of $1 million. Because everyone that we were hanging out with were doing $1 million launches. So we're like, well, let's throw out $1 million. I mean, their programs were like $2,000 or $5,000. Ours was $97, but no one told us that we couldn't do it. And it was interesting because I was actually talking to a girlfriend about this the other day, how, in Australia, and I think maybe Canada could be similar, we have this tall poppy syndrome, that if you're doing better than everybody else, they kind of want to drag you back down. But here we are in this foreign country with other people who are all kind of doing something similar to us, and they were nothing but supportive. And just went, no one told us that that was crazy. No one told us that, you're not going to be able to do that. They just went, yeah, go for it. We're like, okay. So, we had a very clear vision of where it is that we wanted to be. So even when, things like the email delivery company that was, when we're gathering all our opt-ins and building our email list, shut down our account because it was growing so fast, they were convinced we were doing something illegal. Like, no. We had to get Frank on the phone, the guy, our mentor, so that he could reinstate the account. We had that company closed down for maintenance the morning of the launch. And we had 3,000 customer support emails by lunchtime because no one was getting their confirmation email that they had purchased a program. So we're the new kids on the block. They don't know who we are. They're like, we use scammers. We're like, no. So we had, and then, we also had the company that we use as a payment gateway freeze our account. Because again, they were like, we've never seen this much money come into account so quickly. You must be doing something illegal. Like, we know. So once we kind of, they froze $500,000 for 6 months. So we nearly went bankrupt. Like, it was just crazy. And the biggest crazy thing about it is that when we went back to Australia and then they finally released the funds, we got an attorney involved and we had to transfer the money back because we're an Australian company. We earned about $250,000 on the exchange rate getting the money back to Australia. So we basically did $1 million launch. Not that I would recommend that that's the way that anyone should do it. And it was very stressful. But this is, it's amazing that when you can really put a lot of energy and a lot of focus and really see and believe that you can create something, it's incredible how that can come to fruition. And sometimes it's so much better than what you think. So yeah, it was a wild ride.
Yeah. Surrounding yourself with similar-minded people, right? Yeah. But yeah, like Marina says, tell us about the educational part of what you do now. It sounds fascinating. As a teacher, I know, self-esteem and there's a lot of hopelessness in schools right now, hopelessness and lack of direction and uncertainty. It's just everywhere. So tell us about what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I created this program after reading a news article. This is several years ago, of a little 10-year-old girl who had committed suicide because she was being bullied. And I remember thinking, this is just unacceptable. Like, I know that I can help here. Like, there's something that I need to do. And I created like the children's version of Mind Movies, and I didn't quite know what else to do after that. And then a colleague of mine who has 2 master's degrees, she's worked with kids in trauma all around the world. She approaches me and she said, okay, we got to put this program together. I'm like, okay, let's do it together. So, and it was finished before the pandemic. 20 lessons per year. It's designed for the teachers to teach in their classrooms. So we're giving teachers all the tools that they need to be able to help the kids to self-regulate their emotions, to tap into their self-esteem, to take on practices like gratitude and yoga and meditation, and how they can use that to really help the energy of the class. We're teaching kids how to set personal standards, realizing what their sense of belonging is and how they fit into their community and the different social circles that they have. Like it's intense. It's like 280 lessons. It's huge. And then the pandemic hit. We're like, okay, and I know through many years of, manifesting what it is that I want, that I have to kind of surrender into knowing and understanding that everything's happening in divine timing. Now, I was ready for this to start 2 years ago, but of course, the pandemic, unfortunately, has created an environment where it no longer can be ignored. And, as you probably are well aware, Fran, there are behavior issues that are coming up in children right now that teachers have never seen before, and it's needed more than ever. So we have 2 huge school districts in Texas, one with 45,000 students, the other one 60,000 students. So we are meeting with teachers this month. We start the integration there, which is going to be huge. And we're available to make sure that the teachers get support. Because, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but in the US, the teachers are resigning in droves. And right now, like one of the school districts that we've been talking to employed 42 new teachers, 42 new foreign teachers. Mm-hmm. They had to bring them in from outside the US because they can't find anyone here. So, it's just this unusual, crazy situation. But this program, this curriculum, just like I said, it gives the teachers the tools that they need. It gives the students the tools that they need. We also have a whole integrated technology part of it where the kids do a little wellness check-in, and we have this AI technology so that when they speak into their device, we can tell what emotions they're feeling from the frequency of their voice. So it's easy for us to, be able to send, data to the teachers and go, look, there are a certain number of students that need some help. That's, so no one's kind of falling through the cracks. It's been a labor of love, but and unfortunately the time for it is now. So as a result of everything that's been happening.
Oh, it's absolute amazing timing. Sorry, Fran. And I think one of the most gratifying things of being in this field is that you don't always see the result instantly. So I am so looking forward to hear in 5 years, 10 years from now, those kids that went through this program, how it turned their lives around, because that's what it does.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
One of the big components that you talk about in what I have followed with you is gratitude, and the power of gratitude to change mindset, to change vibration, to change what actually we attract in life. So I was hoping that you would talk a little bit about the 7 steps of attraction. Actually, it's the 7 steps of attraction, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, 6 steps actually.
Close enough.
Yeah, very close. Yeah, so I mean, I'm the type of person that I can look at some success or look at things that I've done and I can break it down into actionable steps. I'm one of these people that, yeah, I can have that, that spiritual conversation and be all esoteric and everything, but I'm also very grounded. So I've figured out how you can, through steps, apply consistently the law of attraction to be able to get the results that you want. And for me, number one, it starts with our frequency, our vibration. We know that when we are feeling high frequency emotions, we are in flow. Everything is easier. We know that if we want to be a vibrational match to the things that we want, our emotions are the frequency that we send out into the universe. So we want to make sure that we're in higher frequency emotions as much as possible. So that's not just things like happiness and joy and gratitude, but it's also things like courage and willingness and pride and accomplishment, and anything where we're feeling really good about ourselves. And so gratitude, even though it seems like a very simple thing, it's one of the foundational habits that we should all have as human beings, because it easily gets us into those higher frequency emotions. So whether that's through writing in your journal, and when you're writing your journal, don't just go through the motions. Like, you want to feel gratitude when you're writing those things and maintain that feeling as long as you can. You could set yourself an alarm on your phone or your watch, and when that goes off during the day, you could stop and drop and be grateful for something in that moment. And our brains are defaulted to always looking at the negative. And by doing this, we're actually training our brain to look for the positive. Even like you could have an activity that you do every single day. It could be something like cleaning your teeth. For me, it's when I'm walking my dog in the morning. That's, again, my action that I know that I'll just naturally fall into my gratitudes. And I'm grateful not for things that have just happened, but I'm also grateful for things that are coming. Like, I'm grateful that the day is going to be amazing and that everything's going to fall into place and I'm going to get all the ideas that I need. And, so you're grateful for things in advance as well. So number one for me is be in your happy place, be in that positive frequency. The next one is setting your intention. So remember, I was saying in my story, like when we were flying over to America, I'm like, our intention is to get a mentor and to meet this guy and to become sponges, and which is exactly what we did. And for me, an intention is like a line in the sand. It's like, no matter what, this is happening. It could be no matter what. I'm like, I want to be in this relationship. I want perfect health. I want a successful career. I want to be financially free. And the thing is, it's like when you make a statement like that, it's like the wheels of the universe are already starting to turn, and you're already starting to see some paths or some solutions or some, ways of being that are going to help you to get there. So set your intention. For me, that's number two. The number three is then to really get clear about what it is that you want. And this is where something like a mind movie comes in, or a vision board. But you want to go a little bit deeper into figuring out, well, what does this future look like? So if I want to be financially free, what does that mean? Because it means different things for each of us. And when we're thinking about money per se, that doesn't really excite us. Remember, we want to be eliciting a high elevated emotion, but what the money represents is what gives us that high elevated emotion. So I always write out affirmations, because it means I'm writing it out as if it's happening now. And that also helps that when I'm doing my visualizations, I've already written it as if it's happening now, so I can see it in my mind as if it's happening now. So I get people to focus on, what it is that you want, the bank account, the career, the relationship, the health, whatever that is. Then you also want to describe what life looks like now that you've got it, because that's really the fuel of our visualizations, because we want to be able to see ourselves already being there. The next thing I think about is, well, why? Why do I want this? If it's something for career, like I have my Movie with the Kids program, I focus on how I'm helping children, how I'm helping parents, how I'm helping teachers. That's my why for that. I also have why for the people that I love and the why for myself. So I focus on that. I also think about what kind of actions I need to be taking, if I need to change my daily practice or something like that. And then the last thing is my thoughts. And, Marina was saying earlier, she had some limiting beliefs coming up. Often when we start to move towards a positive goal like this, it challenges a lot of the programming that we adopted when we were kids. All the reasons, like we're not worthy, we don't deserve it, which I've had to overcome a lot of that as well. Going into mind movies, it was a big step. I had to learn a lot of things and skills that I didn't know. I didn't really do a lot of speaking on stage or in front of video. I had to learn all of that. I was 40 years old when we started mind movies. Now at 50 years old, I'm like, wow, I'm going into education. I'm like, okay. And again, I have to overcome that voice that tells me all the reasons why I'm not qualified. I don't even have kids. What are you doing? Who do you think you are? So I always write affirmations that of the thoughts that I'm going to replacing those old thoughts with, so that when I catch myself in one of those thoughts, I'm like, cancel. And then I go into the thought that I've already decided I'm going to replace it with. And when I remind myself every day when I'm watching my mind movie or looking at my vision board, it helps me to eliminate those older thoughts. So after we've got clear about what we want, then we have to visualize as often as we possibly can. And when you're visualizing, I always recommend that rather than seeing yourself as a character in a movie in your mind, that you actually put yourself in a moment as if it's actually happening now. And Marina, this is what Dr. Joe Dispenza, how he teaches people to do their visualizations. So what are you tasting? What are you smelling? What do you hear? What do you feel? What's going on in that moment? And make it as real as possible, because your subconscious mind doesn't really know the difference, right? And just choose one moment, just one moment that you'll be experiencing. Like when I actually met my boyfriend, my partner during COVID in 2020, when, no one was leaving their house. I made a mind movie. I had plenty of time on my calendar. And I showed him the mind movie like 3 months after we'd been together. And he was like, wow, that's a little creepy because that's like us. And I'm like, I know. But what I used to visualize it was being on a beach with my partner. I could feel the deck chair underneath me. I could feel the warmth of the sun on my skin. I could hear the waves and smell the ocean. And I was holding his hand, and the feeling of love and contentment. And within 4 weeks of us being together, we did a little road trip up to Monterey on the coast. And I remember sitting on the beach and going, wow, this is that moment. This is what I feel. That's like that moment. So the more we can visualize and feel, and once you've created that in the first couple of times, you don't have to sit down with your eyes closed to keep going there in your mind. You could be driving the car or vacuuming the house. You can still go there in your mind. The more often that you do that, the faster you create these new neural pathways with thoughts that are in alignment with that future, which then start to positively influence your actions. And when your thoughts, actions, and emotions are all in alignment, you're just like a big homing beacon for everything you need to make it happen. Okay, so we're doing our visualizations. Number 5 is to take action, and it doesn't matter what action you take. You just look at what the next step is. If you get overwhelmed with the mountain of stuff that needs to happen, just what's my next step? And then what's my next step after that? And just focus on the next step. And then the last one's the hard one, because that's when we go, okay, yep, we've got you doing all of these things, and now I just want you to let it go. I want you to let go any attachment of what it's going to look like, how long it's going to take, how it's going to happen. You have to release all attachment to that. And it's kind of hard to do that because you go, wait a minute, but I've been doing all these things, and I really want this to happen. But and like we were saying before with the kids program, it's been years working on this thing. And I've had some moments where I'm like, it needs to happen already. But I had to trust and surrender into knowing that the reason it's not happening now is because it's not meant to, and when I can surrender into that trust, it means that I still keep my energy high, because if I'm frustrated or, desperate or whatever, that I'm in lower frequency emotions, then that cuts off the flow. So I want to make sure I maintain those higher frequencies.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
That's absolutely amazing. So Natalie, we were talking earlier, so people can go and connect with you through Mind Movies, through USM Ultimate Success Masterclass, and anything else coming up that you would love to share, how people can connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So mindmovies.com is the main website. Through there, you get to find out all about all the programs that we have. You can download some free mind movies, so you get a chance to have a look at what that looks like and imagine what, that the meaning of wealth or love looks like for you. You can also access the podcast through there as well. So the podcast is called Not Over, Just Different. And it's the phrase I coined when Glenn and I separated in 2013. We're still good friends and still business partners. I'm like, dude, our relationship's not over. It just transitioned into something different. So that podcast is really for women of our age and all the things that sometimes we don't talk about with each other, or that that we don't talk about enough. So I like to open up those conversations on there. And then if you have a school or a teacher or whoever that would like to find out more about the children's program or the curriculum, if you go to personalgrowthstudies.com, you can actually contact me through that website, and it gives you a whole bunch of information there. So, we're looking to make life easier for our teachers. I mean, God bless you, Fran, and all of your colleagues. You guys have got the hardest job in the world right now. So, I'm so grateful for all the work that you do in any way that we can help. We want to step up and be able to do that.
I can't wait to check that out.
Right. I'm going to remind you, Natalie, and then we didn't really touch about the details of the Ultimate Success Masterclass. And I believe that is the 6 steps that you described. That's actually what I experienced in the Ultimate Success Masterclass. So that is a 12-week program, correct? If I remember.
Yeah,
correctly.
so it's 12 modules.
Right.
Although we know that life is hectic, and once you join the program, you actually have lifetime access. So you can take as long as you want, and you can go through as often as you want. So, and because I do a live call every week, because you're a member, you can come back in at any time and join those calls and ask questions. It's really cool. But the first half of the program is the steps, going deeper into that. How do you practice that? How does that show up in your life? But then the second half, and this is something that you talked about earlier, Marina, is that we look at you. Like, who are you? What's important to you? What are your passions? What are your core values? How do you make your decisions? How do your internal thoughts, influence the outcomes that you have in your life? Because we can have all these positive thoughts around our goals and our vision, but then, we may have these judgments, or we may, gossip, or we may do other things that aren't really, that are like a mixed message to the universe. And we look at, spiritual practice and all of those kind of things. So it's, first part is, how do I make stuff happen? Second part is, well, who do I want to become? And we get to, to marry both of those things together.
Absolutely worth it. I cannot recommend it higher. And then, Natalie, thank you so much for being here today. And you will forever be in my heart.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And thank you for setting up this platform and putting out this message. Yes, we've talked a lot about what's happening with schools, but, parents are hurting, people are hurting.
They are.
We've just come through 2 years of the unknown, and it was probably the longest and shortest years of my life. But none of us have come through it unscathed.
Absolutely.
And so when you have something like this where people can find information and maybe one thing that they hear on your show is just the one thing they needed to hear that day. So congratulations on the success of your program, and thank you for inviting me.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much. And
thank you so much,
Fran
Natalie.
and I.
It's been a
Fran,
pleasure.
you're saying goodbye as well. I'm talking a lot, so it's your turn.
Well, on Hopenning number 34, we're going to have one of my friends who's an expert in gratitude, and we'll welcome her. But those of us that do what we do, We know that there's certain things that are just necessary, right? So thank you, Natalie, for reminding us what's most important. And like you said, we all came through the last 2 years with something, right? With something. And whether it's disenchantment or whether it's hopelessness or anxiety, that's why we do what we do. And I hope that those people that tune in have learned a lot today, and that they do reach out, to you. So thank you again for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.